Welcome to the Natural History Cupboard. Come on in.
And welcome back to the Natural History Cupboard podcast, the place where the weird and wonderful parts of the natural world come together. I'm your host, Gareth, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Aaron. Aaron, how are we doing?
Not bad at all.
And you might even be able to see we've been joined also by a
Special
small
guest host.
Yeah, small furry member of the team. It's Artemis, your cat.
Yeah.
Who's just decided to let herself in. So, what have you been up to?
This is going to sound weird because of the way we've recorded the future too. But I've been working on a banoffee pie.
Oh, yeah, that is going to definitely seem weird considering you've saying the same thing on an episode that we will be releasing in the future.
That one airs, I would have eaten the banoffee pie.
I'd hope so, considering that'll be like 2 weeks from now. So, well, yeah, not had much of a wildlifey week.
No, not really. Although we've recorded 2 episodes of the podcast.
You saying the same thing. Be prepared for that. Fair enough.
It's not gone off. It's not a glitch in the matrix. It's just yeah. Well, didn't think about it at the time.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I like I say, I've bought some I Spy books for a little bit of a nostalgia hit to help. Give my child something to look out for. But also at the same time, I completely forgot to include this when we talked about it in the future episode, which we recorded in the past. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff. Also found a really cool map of the world.
Oh yeah,
jigsaw puzzle. This is the best bit. It comes with flags of most of the world's capitals. And it's got the flag of the country on one side of the little plastic flag, and then the name of the capital on the back. So you've then got each one of those places where those flags go, you can then put them in, but it didn't tell you. So you could do it as a proper, learning of where capitals and parts are.
Where did you get that from?
I just found it on the internet. But it also came with a different, smaller jigsaw of Europe. Because of the scale of the map, you'd have never been able to do Europe properly. So, you can also apparently get other ones of Africa. Africa was a little bit simplified,
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know. I was a bit like, oh. But yeah, it was really cool. And if anything, when putting all the stickers on for each country and flag, whilst sat there with my parents who were down for the week, I was like, okay. And the capital of this country is, it was sort of guess the capital. So yeah, that was fun. I can now, tell you where Addis Ababa and
Oh, odd that you say that. I know a weird fact about Addis Ababa.
There's a lot of A's in it.
Well, there is that. But if I'm right, that's where it's one of the places where you can mine the element of krypton. But also in that Brandon Routh, Kevin Spacey Superman movie, Superman Returns, when they go into the museum, on the mineral rock wall, there's obviously the addition of, because of the universe is in kryptonite, and it's labeled Addis Ababa.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there's just a random weird pop culture fact there. It's weird that
it's mostly mined in,
and it's the one that you could have said anywhere else in the world and wouldn't have anything to say about it.
Just stuck in my head. Fair enough. Well, let's head into the news, shall we?
Let's do it.
It's the news.
Right, well, we're into the news for this week. Aaron, takes out what we got.
So my first article comes to us from BBC News, and it is beavers set to become a protected species in Wales. So this is the news that European beavers that are essentially starting to enter most river courses, or more and more river courses.
Pretty much everywhere, yeah.
Are actually going to be protected by Wales now, which is fantastic news.
Which means that they're going to have to fit whales into the streams as well, where they are
armed with guns.
Yeah. Orcas in little streams and puddles before you know it.
When you're in the UK and you're talking animal protection, no measure is too much to keep the toffs at bay.
I could imagine someone coarse fishing and just an orca pulls them in. Anyway, non-ridiculous. So antisocial swan removed from town is the one that I've got. It's also a BBC article, but it's been cited by various different places. So a black swan has been removed from a historic town after it spent 9 months terrorizing other birds and tourists. The bird, named Reggie by the locals, which I think is brilliant, was
gangster.
I think they were going for maybe the Cray twins.
Yeah, that's what I think they're going for.
Was captured by a swan warden, Cyril Bennis.
There's actually a dog called a swan warden.
Yeah, apparently so.
Damn.
So it's an Australian black swan.
Nice. I like them.
Yeah, they're quite nice. I work with a pair of them, and they're not that terrifying. Has been basically rehomed from Stratford upon Avon, and is being sent all the way down here to a rehoming centre in Devon. In fact, it's going down to Dawlish. Sorry. Mr. Bennis said that the capture was what had to be done after the bird's behaviour, which included disrupting nesting swans and also terrorising everyone. But people apparently loved the fact that he was terrorising people. So sort of a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got real personality, those birds. They're really cool.
I've never worked with one of those, but I did work with, or work around, I should say, 2 extremely aggressive whooping swans. Yeah. They're basically, if you imagine your standard white swan, just like
bigger,
huger. Yeah. So my next article comes to us from Live Science, and the headline is "Mysterious 160 million year old creature unearthed on Isle of Skye is part lizard, part snake." So researchers have discovered a mysterious ancient lizard with snake-like teeth in Scotland. Now, I'm never going to be able to pronounce this, but I'm going to give it a go.
Nessie.
Brugnathia elgolensis is one of the oldest relatively complete lizard fossils and helps scientists
Was it
better
found near
understand...
Elgin?
I guess so.
Oh.
But it was discovered in an area that is part of the Jurassic period.
Nice.
So yeah, really cool.
Oh, interestingly enough, there's a couple of things named after the town of Elgin. The marbles. No, it was Lord Elgin, but and Elginia, a Permian era, Triassic era reptile. So yeah, it's also down the road from where I used to live. So mine comes from the Department of Conservation for New Zealand. It's the sad news that Solstice, one of the female founders of the modern populations of kakapo, has died of an infection after battling cloacitis, which actually brings the number of birds down to just 237 kakapo in the wild.
Wow.
In the world, sorry. So she was a valuable genetic stock and was notable as a matriarch of what was called the Celestial Dynasty. One of the largest females, and for various different milestones as well, including in 1997, she was the last kakapo found on Stewart Island and named after her discovery date. In 2009, Solstice was the first kakapo chick fertilized via artificial insemination. And in 2019, Solstice became the only kakapo to lay 3 clutches in a single season, which is impressive.
Yeah.
Her age was unknown, but in the 28 years that she was known, Solstice bred in 6 seasons with a total of 8 clutches, 24 eggs laid, 13 fertile eggs, 6 chicks hatched, 4 living offspring, and 27 total descendants. So, pretty impressive numbers for an endangered species.
Wow, that is, yeah. So, my next article comes to us again from Live Science, and the headline is, and this is going to be contrary to what a lot of people think, chimps eat fruit full of alcohol, but no, they don't get drunk. And it's a reference to the fact that these guys can metabolize something like the equivalent of, I think it's I'm going to double check this, a beer and a half a day from eating alcoholic fruits. And it's essentially that they're able just to keep going.
I mean, we don't need to see drunk chimps. I imagine they'd be violent.
Yeah. I imagine that will be very much like Barnstable when they released.
Chucking out time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, my final one is from the National Trust of the Southwest, and it's well basically saying that a historic moment has happened after more than a century. Pine martens have officially returned to Exmoor. So we are now sitting in an area where there are pine martens. Although I believe the ones that were released as part of the Two Moors Pine Marten project, which the Two Moors being Dartmoor and Exmoor. So Dartmoor was released earlier last year and this year. We've now seen these being released on an estate in Exmoor, and I believe it's more towards the Somerset side of Exmoor that they've been released. But well, I'm a firm believer that they're around here anyway. I've seen evidence to suggest they're already in and around the area, but to say that they're officially here is good news.
There's some that aren't too far from us, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all over Facebook for people seeing it in their gardens in Woolacombe.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So they're definitely here, but officially they're here now.
Yeah, they're officially being released and stuff now. So that is good news.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this day for that. To be a day long remembered in the Empire.
All right, Vader.
Anyway, that basically brings us to the end of the headlines. If you guys have any headlines that you'd like us to cover, please get in contact through any of the usual channels, and if it's relevant, we'll include it into the headlines, or it will be in the main section, which is on me today. And this is an interesting one because it's been a problem for so long in captive elephant populations. But BBC News is reporting that a vaccine breakthrough for deadly elephant virus has been discovered. The breakthrough was made by researchers in the development of a new vaccine to get rid of this virus that specifically attacks babies or juveniles,
and mostly Asian elephants.
Asian elephants, yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's elephant endo. Another one of the. It's basically the elephant form of the herpes virus. I'm going to try and read it anyway because I should try and read it. It's elephant endotheliotropic. Okay, I think I got it. Elephant endotheliotropic herpes virus, and it's basically the leading cause of death in young Asian elephants. And I mean, some of you might be familiar with this if you followed. What was the name of the program that was based in Chester Zoo?
I think it was just called the Zoo.
Was it just called the Zoo?
Yeah.
Yes, it was because they were going to do it at Knowsley as well and call it the Park. I remember this. Yeah. So if you followed that program, then you would have come across it. You'd be familiar with this because they've experienced enough of it to last a lifetime. But basically, they're actually involved in this because trials involved adult elephants at Chester Zoo, and the vaccine was found to be safe. But more importantly, it activates part of the immune system that helps fight viruses. Professor Falco Steinbach from the UK Animal and Plant Health Agency and the University of Surrey said that this was a landmark moment in our work to protect Asian elephants. Asian elephants, by the way, this, as far as I'm aware, is not part of the article. I can't remember reading it, but they're the ones who probably have more of a future in the UK, because African elephants don't do as well because they come from a much drier habitat, whereas the Asian elephants they have not just come from a much more wet, moist, humid environment. They also come from a variety of different habitats and climates, so they can adapt far better to the climate here. So this elephant herpes virus, it had, as I say, it's had Chester Zoo has experienced enough of it, so it is kind of poetic and fitting that they're the ones to have kind of crashed through this barrier.
They've also got the money and the resources to put into it.
They do have that, but I also say kind of the. It's not that when I say this, it's not that others don't deserve it, but they certainly do the work to deserve the money and that. It's a very nice zoo. I wouldn't say it's my favorite zoo in the UK. That would go to the Highlands Wildlife Park, but it is a very good zoo. So yeah. It's not really known why this is so deadly to them, to this species and the young age, but because a lot of adults carry the virus too. But I mean, losing animals at any time is not a nice feeling or experience, especially probably shouldn't. It's not a favoritism type thing, but when you're working with these much more intelligent species like chimps or elephants, when you're working with these animals that have longer gestation periods and they go through a much more relatable the babies, that is, they go through a much more relatable maturation period. They're not so quick to grow like other animals.
It's a lot more emotionally investing for the keepers and the staff who work with them.
So yeah, I really feel like that needed shouting out, because I mean, that's fantastic news, and hopefully that's going to prevent a lot more pain to a lot of elephant herds and a lot of elephant keepers. And also, as is almost always the case, anything you learn from the wild benefits captivity. Anything you learn in captivity benefits the wild. So hopefully there's application potential there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was, like I say, our news for this week. Well, let's head into our creature feature, which is not really a creature feature this week. It's slightly different. Let's have a look.
Special feature.
It's the creature feature.
Right, so we're into this week's, I'd say, creature feature. It was meant to be this week Spinosaurus, one that I've been building to do for quite a while. And I've been trying to find as many excuses as possible not to do for various different reasons. But with events that have obviously transpired in the last week or so of the passing of Jane Goodall, we thought it would be, well, the perfect sort of opportunity to talk about an amazing woman's life and the impact that she's had on conservation, behavioral studies, and just generally the impact on our lives as well. Because she is one of those people that, I mean, I think you'd have grown up seeing her on TV and knowing about her as one of those sort of people in the same league as Attenborough and Steve Irwin and things like that. Those true pantheon of wildlife heroes,
deities.
Yeah. So yes, we thought this week would be the perfect opportunity to basically talk about an amazing person and the life that they've led. So there won't be Spinosaurus this week. However, we will be doing Spinosaurus next week.
Yes.
I've been hemmed into a corner by both Aaron and Andrew on that one. It's gonna happen. I'm prepared for it. I'm just waiting for the week after when they say that, in fact, Spinosaurus was actually not a real dinosaur. It was a pterosaur that swam under the sea and was nothing like what we know it to be.
I was going to say, you prepared yourself up to today.
Yeah.
As of tomorrow, when they get new news out,
I'm gonna write. I will write the script the day that we record. So anyway, that aside, I wanted to start off by saying, or trying to do as good an impersonation as possible as Jane Goodall would give at the beginning of many of her talks. Now, have you been lucky enough to see her give a talk?
Was never lucky enough to see her give a talk.
No, I've been lucky enough to see her, but I was much up in the gods, as it were. Not that close, but still, she gave her traditional sort of pant hoot that she gives at the beginning of a talk. So I don't know whether this is going to get sound gated out by our microphones, but we'll give it a go. I'm going to do my best chimp pant hoot to introduce this. It's no pressure or anything. So yeah, we'll have to see how well this goes. If it doesn't work with the microphones doing this, we'll find another way and putting it over the top. But here we go. I'll give my best attempt. My first attempt ended with me coughing my guts up. So here we go. Oh, no, I can't do the end. I can't do the. Yeah, I know. I can't do the scream bit. So bad attempt to try and introduce myself in chimp aside, we will talk about Jane Goodall. So, born Valerie Jane Morris Goodall on the 3rd of April 1934, was actually made a dame as well. She was a British primatologist, an ethologist, and conservationist. She had 6 decades of studying of wild chimpanzees at the Gombe stream in Tanzania. And she literally rewrote what scientists believed about animal behavior, tool use, and the boundaries between humans and other animals. So she is just as much of a groundbreaking personality as any of the other people that we've featured when we've talked about humans. In fact, so far we've done
Jane Goodall,
Darwin, and Mary Anning. So
Mary Anning
that's the level of groundbreaking she was. So Jane Goodall grew up in Bournemouth, surrounded by pets and books that fed her early fascination with animals and the continent of Africa. She never followed a conventional academic path at first. In fact, after traveling to Kenya in her 20s and meeting the prominent paleoanthropologist Louis Leakey, she was encouraged to study chimpanzees in the wild, a commission that set the stage for her landmark fieldwork at the Gombe stream beginning in 1960. Now, her unusual route, later earning a PhD from Cambridge without first taking an undergraduate degree, which I was not aware of, and her immense patient field methods distinguished her from many other early naturalists around in the 1960s. Now, she was known as one of the Primates. You're aware of those?
Yes, it was Dian Fossey and I feel awful, but I always forget the other one.
Barute Gildegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Louis Leakey, who was a primatologist, probably best known for the discovery of Lucy, the Australopithecus, selected 3 young researchers to study great apes in the field. Collectively, they became known as the Primates, or Leakey's Angels, which doesn't sound as good, Leakey's Angels.
Yeah.
But Jane Goodall studied chimpanzees, Dian Fossey studied gorillas, and Barute Gildegas orangutans. The trio not only expanded knowledge across 3 ape species, but altered the practice of long-term in situ primate science and demonstrated that women could lead major field projects in what had been a male-dominated scientific culture. So groundbreaking all the way. Dian Fossey obviously met with a rather untimely end whilst protecting the gorillas. And whenever I think of Dian Fossey, I instantly think of Sigourney Weaver and
what was that film?
Gorillas in the Mist.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame that obviously that's the only one that has a film made about them. The other 2, I feel, deserve their own films as well.
Maybe now you do you know what, actually? I was going to say maybe now you'll get one, but it would actually be more interesting perhaps to start with how they met Louis Leakey, the 3 of them, and went off and then you can do there's also sequels then, isn't it? You can set up the whole Leakey universe.
Oh, that's
the Leakey cinematic universe.
That doesn't sound right. So anyway, her field study was at the Gombe stream. Now, Goodall's study site was basically in the Gombe National Park and provided the setting for continuous longitudinal observation of a single chimpanzee community, and this was the Kasakela group. Rather than using traditional scientific distance, Jane invested her time in habituating herself to individual chimps so that she could observe natural social behavior, family ties, hunting behaviors, grooming, aggression, and play. Her meticulous notes and ability to recognize the chimps as individuals with distinct personalities and life history produced a rich portrait of chimp society and social complexity. The Gombe project eventually became the longest continuous study of any animal population in the wild. So I believe those chimps are still being, studied to this day as a group. Obviously, long past the probably the original animals that would have been there for Jane Goodall, although not too long.
No, they have They have decent lifespan.
30 odd. So yeah, would probably be on to their grandchildren, I'm guessing, by now.
Yeah.
So while she was doing this, she basically made a discovery that changed, well, how we view ourselves. In 1964, Jane Goodall published her short but explosive Nature paper documenting chimpanzees at Gombe manufacturing and using tools, noticeably fashioning twigs to fish for termites from termite mounds. And prior to Goodall's observation, tool manufacture and purposeful usage of tools were widely considered a defining trait of just us, Homo sapiens. Her clear and rigorous recorded evidence convinced the scientific community to rethink that boundary. Tools were no longer seen as exclusively human hallmarks. And Goodall's work forced scientists to redefine tool use and consider cognition, culture, and technology as traits that are distributed to varying degrees, of course, among other primates. That single finding opened the door to questions about culture, learning, and evolutionary roots to human behavior and what it means to basically be human. And on that tool usage, it also opened the door to us then finding other species that use tools, even going as far as things like birds, which, things like the New Caledonian crow, they will get twigs to do the exact same thing that the chimps are doing, find insects with them. The observation of birds using bread to fish with is, all just stunning usage of tools and doing things like that. So why did the use of tools matter philosophically and scientifically? Well, it essentially eroded human exceptionalism. And this still goes on today. People still see humans as being very different from animals. We are nothing more special than just a relatively hairless, upright walking ape. Tool use have been used for a incredibly long time as the cognitive litmus test to separate humans from animals. By demonstrating that chimpanzees' capacity to make and use tools, Goodall made the distinction blurred and prompted more comparative work on cognition. It also started to erode the boundary of culture in non-human animals. Different chimp communities use different techniques, tool styles, termite fishing methods, hunting strategies, all sorts of different ways of being able to survive, and passing this on through other members of the group, suggesting social transmission traditions form of culture. And we've seen that, and we've talked about that so many times when it comes to, well, I'd say orcas are probably the biggest group that we've probably talked about, is that pass of cultural traditions and things.
Not just down the generations.
No.
Yeah.
Across entire different families in different parts of the ocean. And methodological implications. Goodall's patience and individual focused fieldwork became a model for later ethologists and primatologists to study social learning, personality, and life histories across taxa, basically implanting herself into that group and learning how to follow them and understand them as individuals, not just there's some chimps over there, we'll look at what they're doing. It led to her getting far better and probably far more reliable data.
Yes.
So there was also broader scientific contributions from Gombe as well. And beyond tool use, Goodall's finding at Gombe changed the understanding in multiple areas. The viewing of hunting and sharing meat. She documented coordinated hunting of colobus monkeys and complex social rules around the sharing of that meat. Behaviors once thought rare in primates of basically hunting. Aggression and war. She showed that inter-community violence happened, including brutal attacks and infanticide, complicating the view of chimpanzees as purely peaceful and revealing parallels to human conflict, and probably holding up a mirror that is a bit too eerie for humans in some ways. Individual personalities and life histories as well. She tracked the individuals across decades and allowed for insights into aging, maternal styles, social bonds, and long-term demographics, and the dynamics of wild chimp communities as well. So she wrote the book effectively.
Very much so, yeah.
On how chimps behave. it set the standard for what we know today about chimps. And I think pretty much everything that I've talked about in the past in the chimp creature feature comes from her work, basically.
Yeah.
At some point.
Well, I think everything we've ever mentioned about chimps probably stems from her work, really. In reality, so as much as is owed to her about for what we know about chimps.
Definitely. So she went from science to activism as well. And this is in part due to the fact that as her public profile grew, she translated research into conservation and education work, founding organizations and programs to help protect chimps and the habitats to inspire youth as well. Because at the turn of the sort of 70s and that, chimps were very much... Well, I mean, their habitat was being destroyed. There's far greater conservation threats to them probably then. Well, it's hard to say today, but the publicity of the conservation efforts was almost non-existent. In 1977, Goodall founded the Jane Goodall Institute to safeguard chimpanzees and their ecosystems and help promote community-centered conservation. Basically, it supported field research, habitat protection, and anti-poaching and sustainable development projects in the area and in Africa. But also whilst acting as a global advocacy and education organization. The Institute itself also supported the long-term research of the Gombe chimps, ensuring that the continuation of the data and conservation efforts sort of blended together, really, giving you this sort of continued story of these animals. She also founded the Roots and Shoots program, and recognizing that the long-term change requires the inspiration of the next generation, she launched Roots and Shoots in 1991, a youth program that empowers young people worldwide to design and implement projects that help people, animals, and the environment. A laudable goal by any other standard.
Yeah.
So Roots and Shoots emphasizes local action, practical problem solving, and the idea that small community projects can scale social change. Today, the program operates in many countries and has engaged hundreds of thousands of young people. So Goodall served also as United Nations Messenger of Peace and worked within borders, academic institutes and NGOs, and the local African communities to promote conservation, sustainable livelihoods, and animal welfare. Her public speaking, books, media appearances, and documentaries and documentary features brought conservation issues into the mainstream consciousness, helping to shift public attitudes about the habitat protection, bushmeat hunting, and the ethics of animal treatment as well. The Jane Goodall Institute has also partnered with research networks, rehabilitation centers, and policy initiatives to protect chimpanzee populations and restore forests in these parts of Africa. And I think that's one of the main things that she's helped to do, is to get local people in those areas to benefit from the local change that they will make to protect the animals there, but also drive ecotourism and make things better for themselves.
Yeah.
Which is conservation in its most basic, but also I think at its best.
Yes. Yeah.
So Goodall's empathetic approach, naming the chimps. Basically, the moment you do that, you know them as individuals.
Yeah.
Attributing personalities and avoiding overly detached language, which was very much the norm, and still is to some extent when it comes to animal behavior.
The word for it always trips me up. It's anthropomorphism.
Yeah, and I tripped me up. Anthropomorphic, or morphizing. Yeah.
I want to take this opportunity, see if you can correct me on this, because my understanding of this is that it's that term and that protocol has stemmed from labs where we keep animals in, and it's to avoid attachment to them.
I think it is to an extent, yeah.
But yeah, I very much don't believe in that. I very much go along the Jane Goodall line with that.
Well, I think part of it is the moment you are doing a scientific study on an animal and you start to see that animal as an individual as opposed to just a piece of data, that already skews your results. But you can't not, to an extent.
Yeah.
You have to understand them, because just like any human, each individual animal is its own entity.
Individual, yeah.
So this basically helped her behavior, and vivid and accessible sort of descriptions of these animals. But some early critics argued that her methods were unscientific and anthropomorphic. However, many of her insights have been validated by subsequent rigorous studies, and her long-term fine-grained data set is now the cornerstone of primatology. Her examples also broadened who could be a field scientist, elevating long-term observation and the narrative and detail of interdisciplinary in the study of animal behavior. I mean, we don't think of it much today because it is the norm. Is anyone can study animal behavior, but in the 1960s, it was very much well, I mean, we're the category of being able to do that in
White
the 1960s.
Male. Yeah.
So she basically broke many glass ceilings, shall we say. So over her life, Goodall received numerous awards, and rightly so, for scientific prizes to national honours. She was made a dame. She was appointed a UN Messenger of Peace, like I said, and more important than any of her decoration was her role as a translator. She translated complex scientific findings into moral cases for conservation that spoke to policymakers, which is probably the hardest group of anyone to try and get through to, politicians.
This before you finish the sentence, this is what is missing from science today.
Yeah.
In all forms of science, the ability to communicate complex scientific ideas into easy to digest language that inspires movement.
But also emotes as well.
Yeah.
It also helped with children and the general public alike. Her work seemed to be of public interest and help the public interest in primate cognition, informing ethical debates about animal rights and welfare, and inspired conservation movements worldwide. So her legacy will very much live on, and like I say, we've only just lost her, but why her legacy will matter is basically she's contributed to science with the study of Gombe, with a multi-decades long data set which remains invaluable for understanding behavior, ecology, and social learning. Also disease dynamics and conservation biology. With a changing climate, knowing those individuals and having the information about them from the 1960s is invaluable to know how chimps are coping with a changing world.
Yeah.
Her conservation practices helped link research, community development, and education. There's now a standard approach for conservation projects the world over, basically working with local communities to protect what is theirs. And work with them. And also public imagination, by showing that animals have complex inner lives and are not that different from humans. We basically help to find our place and reframe environmental stewardship as both a scientific and an ethical imperative for us. So in this as well, I've included, if you want to sort of dive deeper and read her original 1964 Nature paper, which I'd recommend, which is called Tool Using and the Aimed Throwing in the Community of Free Living Chimpanzees. It's a very short title, that one.
Yeah, but it's very descriptive. When I've told people about tool use, they've been shocked. When I've told people about aimed throwing, that they really don't believe me.
No.
So this is a really good paper to get into.
Well, I mean, if you've ever been around chimps for an extended period of time, you'll know that aimed throwing is something they're very good at doing.
I had a cabbage launched at me like it was a discus.
I had a Kong thrown at me, and if I hadn't have moved at the last sort of second, that thing would have hit me and probably left me on the floor, I think. I mean, a cabbage would do the same as well. Yeah. So yes, they are animals that are incredibly capable of carrying out proper ranged attacks when they want to. But yeah, I'd highly recommend reading her paper. Basically, exploring the Jane Goodall Institute site for program details and current projects that they're taking part in, and consult long-form National Geographic features as well, and the Gombe Project publications to see how the fieldwork developed across the decades. I would imagine as well, I can remember watching some of the documentaries that were made by National Geographic about her.
Yeah.
And the chimps in Gombe. I imagine they're somewhere out there. And I imagine with her death, there's probably going to be a resurgence of things like that coming up.
That if you're in the UK, Disney Plus would be the place to look. If you're in the US, I think what we have on Disney Plus, it will be merging soon, but I think you guys still have it on Hulu.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing.
Star and that they keep Disney and Star separate.
Yeah,
but it's merging soon, so you should be able to find Jane Goodall. Well, you
either way, have a poke around, see what you can find, because I would highly recommend watching or reading any of the things that she's been involved in.
That's one thing I did want to touch on. I didn't know if you're going to touch on it or not, but I just wanted to say, in a world that is constantly questioning the ethics of having zoos and having chimps in zoos, she was a huge advocate for good functional zoos.
Yeah,
same as Attenborough is. And she was a huge advocate for good functional chimpanzee enclosures at zoos. In fact, she even said that with everything going on in the world, I'm paraphrasing, that essentially with everything going on in the world, the wild world and the chimp world, she'd rather be a chimp in the zoo than a chimp in the wild.
Well, I think I would as well. But yes, that is
depending on the zoo.
Depending on the zoo, yeah.
But we're talking good functional zoos here. So. Yeah.
But with that sad news that, like I say, she has passed. She made it to, I believe, 92, which I'd be happy with. That's not too bad at all. And she's lived an amazing life and done some amazing things that are groundbreaking that will basically cement her place, in the biology world for forever, basically. So
this is I know there's going to be a lot of people especially in the world that we come from, who are going to be very upset and saddened by this news. But I actually think it's a moment in which to pause and celebrate a life well lived and remember the message of that life.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a time for sadness. I think it's a time for rejoicing and remembering that one person can make a difference.
Yes, definitely, and that's why we decided to do this week as sort of a tribute to Jane Goodall. So I think not too bad if we can just pause on wildlife people passing away for a good while. I don't want to have to do another one of these for a while.
Yeah, we're thinking of the same name there.
Yeah, no, we're not saying anything.
No.
So anyway, should we move into our emails for this week?
Get the cryopods ready.
Bing! You've got mail. Ooh, it's an email.
Right, well, we're into our emails for this week. We're going to start things off with last week's question, which was, what is the grumpiest animal you know and why? So we've got a variety of different responses. Everyone seems to know at least one grumpy animal by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Lindsay Kinsella has said definitely toddlers. I can agree with that. They can be, they can definitely become quite grumpy.
Yeah. Then Jess Owens has said not grumpy by nature, but enjoy the grumpy frog face.
It's a wonderfully grumpy little bumblebee dart frog. That one. Yeah. It looks like he wants to jump out and throttle you, is what we've replied. She's being held back by our very own Drew.
Yeah.
To make sure it doesn't throttle you.
Atasara says a goose, because they once trapped me on an island while camping, and I couldn't go out of my tent for like 2 hours. Just because I was trying to leave the island while they were resting right in the middle of the path.
I love everyone gets like completely dominated by geese. Spencer Seams has put my friend's cat, Frank. He's a little meanie. He loves to trick you by flipping on his back, but it's a trap.
Pete says girlfriends, definitely girlfriends.
Not going to touch that one with a barge pole. Epi Aurelius has put my rabbit because she feels like it. A lot of rabbits, are quite grumpy things.
Robin has said, Neff, the long-eared hedgehog, her desire to attack is strong and it makes cleaning her enclosure very difficult. There's also a European hedgehog called Thora at the rescue, but she's just a hangry girl.
Jan Ashbridge has put robins. Yeah, and you know what? They are. I think I agree very much. Did you put the reply to that one?
I'm the one that replied to all of these.
Ah, right. Yeah, they are the thugs of the bird world. I've seen them break each other's beaks and keep on fighting with each other.
James Welch says female palace cats, her attitude to life.
I'm glad that somebody put palace cats because I actually forgot to mention them. I think they are the number one.
Grumpy cats.
They're not necessarily grumpy, but they look it.
They do look it, yeah.
Pete Watts is. Oh no, sorry. Maria,
yeah.
So Maria Malco has put my 28-year-old cockatiel named Robbie. Grumpy. Sorry, Robbie Grumpy. When he wakes up, grumpy when he gets a treat. It's never quick enough. Grumpy when he stays up too late and wants to go to bed. And grumpy if he's put to bed. Oh, and grumpy when he calls you and he doesn't hear a response. But he is deaf, so he can't hear. But he is deaf, so he can't hear you respond.
Next one comes to us from Christopher, who says, I did have an encounter with a mountain lion at its fresh kill, but I don't think it was grumpy in the strictest sense. Anyway, all parties left alive, so no need for a doc. Well, all parties apart from the fresh kill.
Yeah. That's, of all the things to walk up to, that's probably a slightly terrifying one. Philip Schofield has said, penguins, bitey little, I'm not going to include the other word. But yes, they can be, very much so. I think that's,
And that's all of them for that post.
So, that was last week's question. This week, we're going to pose you a question that sort of fits in with talking about Jane Goodall. We're going to put, what is your favourite primate and why? So, for me, that's an easy one. There's only two. Actually, no, wait. All right, I'm going to pick an ape, a monkey, and I'm going to pick a prosimian.
Okay.
Because I feel that covers the bases. For me, it's the chimpanzee is my favorite ape because the one I've worked with the most. Brown tufted capuchin is my favorite monkey because they've got so much personality, and yet again another one that I end up working with. And for the prosimian, it's going to have to be the potto because they're just such a odd little prosimian thing, like a loris, but an African version.
Yeah. So I think we're going to match up on two. I take it we're not including humans.
I mean, you can include humans if you want to be really self-centered.
I mean, well, I do have a family that I love.
Well, yes, dearly, I'm not saying you have to throw them under the bus.
I'm going to, as much as I am always like, don't separate humans from nature, I'm going to separate it for the purposes of this question, because otherwise the answer is going to be obvious. Although I think the answer is obvious anyway. It's chimpanzees and pottos. I'm not going to bother going with monkeys or anything else like that because I honestly, genuinely, I love looking at them. Like I love looking at them. Diana monkeys are gorgeous. Lemurs are they're cute. They're funny. But having worked with primates, I just don't enjoy. Like I don't know. I don't like working with them. I do not like working.
That's fair enough.
I loved working. I only very briefly, a tiny amount of my. I can't overemphasize just how tiny the amount of my seasonal contract was spent with chimpanzees. But that tiny amount, whatever I got for that tiny amount, and the people that were responsible for that, I am so grateful to because I really enjoyed working with the chimps or doing things for the chimps. Whilst I was there. But they really are like they really are the only primate that didn't turn me off them by working with them. But Pottos, I like Pottos because I think they're cute. There used to be one in the office at a place where I worked, and he was pretty cute. I don't really know why they had him. It was purposeless, really, to be quite frank. But he was a cool character anyway.
Yeah. Well, let us know what your favorite primate is and why. You can do that through all the normal channels, through our social media, through our Facebook page, where that question will be going up, and also over on our YouTube page where you can put that underneath the video that you're watching currently, which is probably the best way of doing it. Or you can get in contact with us through our email address, which is thenathistorykupboard@gmail.com, where you can send us any emails.
So emails, we do have some emails, and I understand we've done one in a week so far, and that's meant that we've had a bit of carryover. But I am going to push them one more time to another week, just because tonight we've done a double recording, so the Halloween special and this episode.
Make them all fit in.
It's gone midnight, and yeah,
we'll fit them in with Spinosaurus.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the point of saying a big thank you to our Patreons as well, which we will throw in here.
Every week, we like to give a little love back by shouting out the names of our wonderful Patreon supporters.
That's right. These are the cupboard dwellers who are kind enough to support us through a monetary contribution, for which we are eternally grateful and grateful beyond words.
And those people are, of course, Fogtober, Jen Greenhall, Connie P, Chelsea McKee, Nick to Nick,
Owen Cox,
and Matt Geddy.
Guys, your financial contributions are actively helping us out here in the Natural History Cupboard in a myriad of ways, including developing our new studio, planning excursions and being able to go out and film on location, considering technical upgrades, and actually making the jump from a solely audio-based podcast to the now growing YouTube channel. And we really can't thank you enough for that.
Now, we appreciate all of our cupboard dwellers and the support you offer us through listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. But if you feel we've earned it and you're considering joining our Patreon, there are two options through which you can do so.
That's the Nature Nerds and the Animal Ambassador tiers, which you can find on the Patreon website or links through our social media as well. And each one having different benefits for you to enjoy.
And now back to Gareth and Erin in the studio.
So a massive thank you to our patrons. We couldn't do what we do without you. And that pretty much brings us to the end of this week's episode. So thank you, Erin.
No, thank you very much. And yeah, fantastic.
Well, a massive thank you, Artemis, for joining us here on the couch, even though people can't see him. Just sort of tucked in between us for most of the episode. And a massive thank you to you at home for joining us. And we'll see you next time here in the Natural History Cupboard. Bye.
Bye.
So in lieu of a joke for this week, I thought I'd end on a quote from Jane Goodall. The greatest danger to our future is apathy.